Welcome to Timeless Chronicles. Explore history from 15 surprising facts about George III, the Mad King who lost America. Subscribe now for captivating content that takes you beyond time. Timeless Chronicles, history, mysteries. Enjoy this video. He went mad, well, sort of. George suffered bouts of mental instability that may have begun as early as 1765 and lasted until his death in 1820. George became king after his predecessor died on the toilet. Since his own father had died unexpectedly in 1751, George inherited the throne directly from his grandfather, George II. He almost didn't live past infancy. George III, one of the most consequential monarchs in British history, almost didn't live to reign. When he was born in June 1738, he was 2 months premature. He lived his final years locked away in a castle, while his eldest son ruled as regent. During the king's fits of ill health, he often retired to Kew Palace outside of London to escape the public eye. But by 1811, it was clear that the king was getting worse instead of better. He may have been accidentally poisoned by arsenic. Historians don't know exactly what caused George's illness in the final half of his reign. Scientists recently performed a chemical analysis on some of George III's hair, and the results were quite interesting. He took overprotective parenting to a new level. Though George may have had problems with his eldest son, he cherished his 6 daughters. He and his wife, Queen Charlotte, doted on their girls and allowed them the same excellent education usually reserved only for boys. He loathed his eldest son and heir, George III, followed in the Hanoverian tradition of kings despising their heirs. George I constantly butt heads with George II, and George II did not get on well with his own son, Frederick, George III's father. The American Revolution royally pissed him off. In the United States, George III is often painted as an entitled tyrant who trampled on the rights of democratically minded, definitely not British Americans. The truth, of course, is way more complicated than that. His poor wife gave birth to no fewer than 15 babies. The 23-year-old George married the 17-year-old Charlotte in September 1761. It proved to be a loving, happy marriage. So loving and happy, in fact. He was the first Hanoverian king to speak English as his first language. George was the third of 4 Georges to rule in an unbroken line. They ruled in a period known as Georgian Britain, since 4 kings shared the same name. He was an unapologetic moralist in a loose and wild age. The 18th century was an age of seduction, masquerades, and scandals, but George would have none of that. He worked very hard to project an image of domestic tranquility and stability. Indeed, he was known as Farmer George. The death of his favorite daughter broke his heart. George's favorite child was Princess Amelia, his youngest. Amelia suffered from ill health for the majority of her life, and it sadly caught up with her in 1810 when she passed away. His illness made him ramble on for hours on end. One of the varied physical, mental, and behavioral symptoms of George's illness was the fact that he rambled on and on. His final years were spent in pain and confusion. George's issues were not just mental, they were also physical. He suffered from severe aches and pains, and he even had convulsions that were so powerful that aides had to sit on him so as to keep him from injuring himself. Though he had 9 sons, they had a hard time producing male heirs. George and Charlotte had 9 sons over the course of their marriage, and 2 of them would wear the crown before passing it on to a new generation.